So we'll go firstly to the Lidcombe waste facility. What matters that? I'm just looking for. Oh, it's 24531, the notice of motion, and it's page 2261, councillors. So I think that's in your third folder. Excuse me. 2361, what's it? 2261. It's a notice of motion. Move Councillor Farooqui. Councillor Farooqui, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'd like to thank first to Ms. Emily Boone for coming here tonight and to talk about this motion and her concern, and obviously she was here to voice the concern of the community. I know she has a young family, so it's a big commitment to come here in the evening and talk about it. Thanks, Emily. And just to remind all what happened last year. So, and it was a very significant issue for whole Cumberland Council. So it was pretty similar time last year, and there were about 2,000 submissions opposing this organic waste transfer station at 109A Church Street, Lidcombe. And our residents were absolutely opposed it. And Councillor Huang and I asked the council to organize a community consultation. And as a result, so community consultation, and we got about 2,000 submissions, as I said. And we, as a council, from all the councillors, we also put a submission to Sydney Central City Planning Panel strongly opposing the proposed development, and it happened on 23rd of February this year. And it was the first time when councillors put this sort of submission because the development application was with us, so it was a very significant thing. And that application, the DA was eventually withdrawn before the decision was made by the planning panel. Now, recently, some residents received a flyer from the proponent. Just let me bring it up. Just give me a minute. I saw it on the social media first. So just few people around that side received it, and it was in English, as Emily was saying. It is in English, and it just says what the proposal is, what the key facts, and it's pretty similar, like what I see here, what this says, MA Investment is proposing to develop an organic transfer station, and this will do this and that. So it has no mention about what happened in the past, what the council went through, what the residents did. It is purely FYI, this is the information, key facts, and it's in English. So what happened as a result? There are a lot of speculation and tension in the community because, again, the whole history came back, whole story, and people are very scared about because they made a big noise and it was a very big issue. No one has forgotten it. It's very recent. So it's, and no mention of what happened and how did the council handle it. So there is no mention. It is purely like a new submission, new thing, and just FYI. So as the speaker, Emily, was saying that it's like we have to start the whole conversation again. So residents have a very genuine concern about that. So as councillors, what we have got to know from our director, and we have put that on the social media to let some people know, whoever use social media, not everyone is there. So with this development application, the applicant can pursue different assessment and determination options. And this includes lodging the application for assessment and determination with the state government or lodging the application with the council again for assessment and determination. So moreover, if a development application is lodged with the council, the applicant can choose to pursue determination through the Land and Environment Court. So our residents need to know all these things. It's a major concern for all of them. So we have and also we have a big population in Regent's Park Ward. around that site who speak Korean and Mandarin as their first language, and they have told us that it will be really important and very helpful if we can put that information in their language, first language. So we need to address that matter too. So the DA is not with us as of now. So we have no understanding, or we don't have the deeper understanding of what the proponent is trying to do. But we have some understanding of where it can go, what line or what channel they can pursue. So whatever information we have, I think this is really important that we tell our residents what's happening. So at this stage, we are asking the council to give that information to our residents as a letter. And as the matter goes ahead, we'll see what we can do, but we really need to tell our residents what's happening. So we are asking other councillors to support it.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Huang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just also like to thank Councillor Farooqui for putting up this notice of motion. It is this issue has been very important for the resident in Lidcombe and the surrounding area, not just for Cumberland Council, but I also want to know that a lot of residents in the Strathfield Council is also very interested in the outcome of this DA proposal, if there's ever going to be one. Everyone will be well remember that we have received over 2,000 submissions on this particular proposal. I think that's the highest number that Cumberland Council have ever received. In fact, it's probably the highest number that any former Auburn Council or Holroyd Council have ever received. This really shows how passionate our community member is on this particular issue. The dynamic that we are facing right now is that we do not know what the developer or the proponent applicant want to do with this site. We don't know who they're going to go to apply for permission to develop this site. Therefore, we have to be vigilant. We need to be aware. We need to also let our resident know the action and the movement of potentially what might happen with this site. I think it is, if the applicant is serious about consulting with the community, the applicant should work with council, should let more of the community member know, should have an open public forum to invite the community to publicly provide their feedback, not just letterboxing, the houses that's surrounding the local area in English. So I would strongly encourage the applicant, if they're genuine about this, let's have a public forum, let's have a town hall, pull your position forward to convince our resident to support your case. Otherwise, I think they're just going to face another roadblock, later down the track in their application. And I will urge all my colleagues around the chamber tonight to support this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Saha. No? Councillor Sarkis.
Madam Mayor, I think my button was still pressed from when I moved the last thing.
Councillor Hughes.
So very interesting, some of the commentary, particularly from Councillor Farooqui, about you and Councillor Huang organising a public meeting. You guys were being reactive, not proactive, because we ran the first public meeting at the outset. So it's not in your pocket, let me tell you, by any means. It's quite insulting, to say the least. After the applicant had withdrawn theirs, of course, any persons who had put in a submission of objection had received a letter, but it wasn't complete because it did only say it had been withdrawn. Consequently, I organised a letter that was in English, that was in Korean, and that it was also in simplified Chinese. So I had it translated overall to let people know that we needed to be vigilant, that this was what the advice had been, was that the applicant was going to review and resubmit in the near future. And I kept saying to people, we don't know if the near future is 6 months, 6 years, whatever, but we need to remain vigilant. So I had an awareness of that out there. Suddenly, this has now come out a bit sooner than probably was anticipated. It was not hand-delivered. It was posted to everybody as far as at the sites. They actually had it posted there, so nobody even walked around doing the delivery of those letters from this person on behalf of the applicant as such. Now, of course, I am very keen to be able to be active. We have had another conversation with our community group that had been active right from the start, and I do have some, proposed amendments to this notice of motion, which I had sent earlier. The reason being that I've got these additional points was because at the outset it says to send a letter to the residents of Lidcombe, providing an update on the applicant's intention. Now, firstly, I've got formally informed residents who had already put in objections in the previous DA. Not all of them were in Lidcombe. So therefore, anyone who had put in an objection should be informed accordingly. Because those who are not in that immediate vicinity, albeit this time round, that document has gone out a little bit more widely than initially when the applicant was doing this, or on behalf of the applicant for the environmental impact statement basis. It has gone a little bit more widely. It still does not at all suggest all by any means, and Lidcombe does not cover it all. I've also written to support the residents by endorsing and organising a campaign against I've written any proposed waste transfer station, but obviously the one at Lidcombe being my major concern at this point in time. So that is what we should do as a council, is to support the residents by endorsing and organising a campaign against this. And thirdly, and then my third amendment, which obviously is then item 5, is to hold a public meeting to provide information and articulate the process to the residents. Because even though I've had face-to-face conversations with a group of people, Emily being one of them, some other people who'd been here earlier as well, they were questioning it. Why is this starting again? What does this mean? We've already put in a submission. Is that not taken into consideration? So I've had to go through some conversations, and people do not understand procedurally the case, and it is exhausting for them and for the amount of time that people have put things in. So that is why, to assist in helping the people who certainly had put in something as an objection at the outstanding point at the first time, they should be advised at the outset, not just those that live in Lidcombe. People are still infuriated that this is still even being considered by the owners. Yes, it is industrial, we know that, but you can't keep making noise as far as there's been plenty of them, and that will be the case. So it is a concern, and I've been informed pretty soon as they got these letters. Some got it more quicker than others. It was just a bit obscure, but it was all, as I said, posted. It wasn't hand-delivered. And, of course, with Australia Post, you never quite know what you are or not getting in a time frame.
Okay. Councillor Hughes, I've been reading your proposed amendment while you've been speaking, and raised with the Acting General Manager point 4 and whether point 4 exceeded our role in a development application process. The concern is that there may be a conflict in us organising a campaign against a development application that is under assessment. Well, that's part of the problem with point 4 as it's written at this time. It's a campaign against a proposal that may be in a DA to run a.
Say that. It says holds a public meeting to provide information and articulate.
No, I'm reading point 4. It's not point 5. I don't have a problem with point 5 or point 3. I'm having some difficulty with point 4. I think it puts us in a difficult position if a DA is lodged and is put under assessment by the council again to campaign against something that is under assessment by the council is a conflict, I think. And I'm wondering if you could consider.
Let's put it to the vote.
Well, I'm just asking Councillor Hughes if she would consider not proceeding on point 4 at this time until we see what comes forward. Until we see what comes forward.
Not at the moment, because even I can assure you the person who is on behalf of the candidate has been emailed asking which way do you intend to put this DA in.
Sorry,
and he's
what
been,
person?
Who's doing the EIS.
Right.
There is an email address, pardon me, on the document that's out there on this letter. There is an email address and he has been written to, James Cosgrove I believe the name is, off the top of my head. Which direction is this happening? Where are you submitting the DA to? And it's been a few days, no response whatsoever to it.
No, we don't. We just don't know at this point, which is why I'm wondering.
This is from a resident that's been writing all these sorts of things.
Which is why I'm suggesting that point 4 might be premature.
Well,
I think it's
all right, you.
it's appropriate until
And I'm
such
told
time
that
as we
it's
know
not
procedure.
unlawful. Is that correct? Not unlawful, Mr. Cavallo.
Just for the councillor's benefit, I don't think technically it's unlawful, but I think you're setting up a situation where council may have implications where it can't undertake its lawful duties. And the reason I've got that position is because we don't have a formal DA at the moment. If we had a formal DA at the moment, we'll be in a better position, similar to point 5, while there's different points of view on the meeting. You're going to have council officers talking about the non-existent DA, whereas when we had the public information, we had a formal DA in the process. So it's more about the timing of those actions, not necessarily whether the action should or shouldn't happen. From my position as a director, to protect council's interest and the community's interest in an application, we need to be very careful and we need to make sure that we're putting the best foot forward for all parties involved in the process.
Director Cavallo is suggesting that we be reactive rather than proactive. Is that the suggestion?
He's suggesting that point 4 might be premature until we understand the position coming from the applicant.
Take it out if they put a DA in.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. And I can assure you, putting this forward is something lightened compared to what some of the residents have asked me to do.
I haven't seen any legal advice about campaigning. You have a legal advice?
Earlier when...
Does that possibly cause a conflict of interest if they do lodge a DA, which means that we can't actually review the DA? Wasn't that the reason that we got?
You might actually be prejudicing your position.
Wasn't that the reason why we actually got an external consultant to review that particular DA, because we could not be in a position to review it if we were going to be against it?
We had to set up Chinese walls so that the elected body was
so by doing this, we're
by a different group to the officers.
So if we're moving point 4, we're literally saying we are not going to review this DA, potentially.
It could place us in that position. Yes.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I have a question. Well, we're in the middle of Councillor Hughes' speech at the moment. But I'm just at the moment considering whether or not to rule out point 4. Yes, Councillor Coleman.
Madam Mayor, the wording says that we don't support any waste transfer stations. Like, is that anywhere in the whole of Cumberland or anywhere in the whole of the universe? It's a problem. It's a problem. Don't interrupt me. This is like the book ban, the unintended consequences of these broad sweeping statements. It doesn't specific. Madam Mayor.
She has the floor.
Madam Mayor, I have the floor,
Councillors.
and I'm making a sensible contribution, unlike other people, where you're making a statement that
was my
says
fear.
you're just against any proposed waste transfer station anywhere, and that's. Would you stop talking? You don't have the floor. I do.
Councillors, if you want to get this matter resolved, you will all stop talking, and I will rule. I've decided that the implementation of point 4 may be unlawful, and I'll rule it out. You can call dissent, and we can have that debate. So point 4 is ruled out. You can add point 3 and 5 becomes a 4. Councillor Farooqui, do you accept point 3 and 4 into your motion? It's accepted into the motion. Councillor Farooqui accepts the amendment. Councillor Garrard, you may speak to the amendment in any event.
Well, I will speak to the diluted amendment now, and I thank the councillor for accepting the amendment into the motion. That is the case. It's been accepted. Is that correct? Yes. I mean, and Councillor Farooqui spent most of her time on her feet there, telling us the history of what happened last year. And lo and behold...
Councillor Garrard, can I just interrupt you because the motion has been incorrectly put on the screen. Okay. We've ruled out point 4. It's gone. Can we take that out, please? No, on the motion that's been accepted. So it's ensure the updated letter, formally inform residents and hold a public meeting. Yep. That's correct. Sorry, Councillor Garrard, but I just wanted to make sure that was on the screen correctly.
And yes, as Councillor Farooqi's comments were a history, it is really a history repeating itself what's happened before, because opposed to what Councillor Coleman said, this is not just any area. It was the advertised tip for Lidcombe. That's what we oppose, the advertised tip. Now, we know that what council in Sydney, can you imagine down at Vaucluse they're going to put a tip down the road, they're going to say, oh, gee, look, we better wait till they put a DA in before we have a council get upset about it. Bullshit. They wouldn't. They wouldn't. I know how they think in the eastern suburbs. This place was run by an administrator from the eastern suburbs, Northern Beaches, and everywhere else in eastern Sydney. We saw how they perform. If they were going to have this anywhere else, they'd say no. We oppose it. This council is letting itself be kicked in the pants. They haven't even got a DA in yet, and you're bending over for them. Why? Absolutely. You should have signs out there now saying we oppose a tip in Lidcombe. Why? Because they had put out a letter to residents saying they're going to have a tip. Now, if the matter comes to us, I'll accept the comment being made. Well, then maybe we lay off then at that point in time on any further advertising opposition to it. But this matter could well go to the state government. So what happens then? We sit back and let them handle it and do nothing. And that's a do-nothing approach. I see that do-nothing approach in this chamber so frequently. We don't wear the carpet out going down the Parliament House, worrying about the concerns that really affect this community. We just let everybody kick us in the pants. We get kicked in the pants time and time again, and you saw it tonight on Westmead. We saw it on Barella. You're not doing enough. Now, the issues here, and I have to thank Councillor Hughes for bringing the matter forward. Two obvious issues, point 3 and 4. Obviously, you're going to tell the previous people who put in submissions about what's happened. Of course, you're going to do that if you understand your community, and of course, you're going to have a public meeting to tell your constituents exactly what's going on here. That's most obvious. But the very obvious thing you do is tell your community, my council, their council, our council opposes a tip in Lidcombe. And that's it. Because you can go to Lidcombe people and ask them. The applicant. The applicant here, let's make it quite simple. Let's make it plain for everybody to understand. The applicant is not genuine. The applicant is genuinely not interested in the interests of the Lidcombe people. All they are interested in is making money. They have told us that. We've seen it in a previous document they put out, the EIS, and it's also spelt out in the letter that they've sent out to residents this time. They've said that this place in Lidcombe, the tip in Lidcombe, is going to service Sydney. Every council in Sydney is going to go through Lidcombe and dump their rubbish there. And I used the word rubbish, and I could have used another word. We're letting them dump on our own on ourselves. That's wrong. I know the Australian government let the British come in and put an atomic bomb on ourselves. Well, that's what we're doing here. We're doing the same. We're letting an applicant come in here and just do it to us. Why aren't we up there campaigning for the residents that live in the area? This is the very least we can do. And I'm sick of bureaucrats telling us exactly what's going to happen. Because that's wrong. They don't live in Lidcombe. I don't think. I must check that up later on, just where our bureaucrats live.
Thanks, Councillor Garrard. That's your time. I might indicate that on the internet publicly is the submission that we put in as the elected body against this former development application that very clearly sets out a position that should be communicated back to the residents. I have no problem with that very clearly being available publicly in any event. I don't have any further speakers. Councillor Farooqui in reply. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor. What I heard from Councillor Hughes was all about I did it. It's not about I, it's about we, it's about the community, it's not about I. Wish I had some stickers here to give some credit to Councillor Hughes. Seriously, it's like some kids are shouting and taking the credit and angry, and seriously, it's about the community. It's all about the community. It's not a political scoring game here, all right? So this council with the Labour majority, we are the council who submitted with Sydney Central City Planning Panel the submission with all the details. With all the details, this was with the Labour majority, this council submitted. And it was a very rare submission where we had all these options explored, and it was a very difficult decision. And Councillor Garrard had all this opportunity to talk and scream and all those things. Those amendments are those amendments we accepted. There was we get the credit. It was so funny to listen to all experienced councillor like Councillor Garrard, how he was screaming about some amendments, like they're really minor amendments. Anyway, so I really hope all the councillors will support it. It is about the community. It's about the council, about the community, not about I. It's about we.
I'm going to put the resolution. All those in favour, please raise your hands. I think it's unanimous, is it? Yes, everyone in the room. Did you want me to name them all? Because it's only some people. Cummings, Farooqui, Hussain, Saha, Coleman, Lake, Huang, Christou, Garrard, Hughes, Rami and Sarkis. Oh, and Zaiter. Carried unanimously.